What am I missing? Without further ado, I do want to pass it over to Ben. Again, if you have questions throughout the presentation, use the Q&A button. Other than that, Ben, take it away.
Thank you, Marielle. Thank you so much. It's great to be a part of another Ace by TSK webinar series. Obviously, it's not a breakfast or a bowling event today, but I hope I can provide you guys with some good education that you can use back at your properties. Quite frankly, for any project that's going on, it doesn't have to be windows and doors. A lot of this information is really good for you to take away and use really for any project at your property. I want to thank Jeff, of course, for being behind the scenes here and making sure that this thing goes smoothly. Of course, Marielle and Lisa, thank you guys so much for including me as always. And I really appreciate and believe strongly in the education that Ace by TSK provides to property managers as well as board members. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a 1 hour OPP credit course for community association managers. I will get all of your contact information and license numbers if you are here from the team at Ace by TSK. Please give us about 4 or 5 days. Sometime early next week, you should see those credits pop up in the DBPR. So I'm going to share here again my course. It's going to be, very not an hour. So I hope you all don't mind that per se. So here we go. Again, questions go in the Q&A, please, not in the chat. And Jeff's going to monitor that. We can, interact throughout the webinar. If Jeff finds necessary to interrupt me, I'm fine with that. I like that. Or we can save them to the end. So here we go. Impact Windows and Doors from specification to closeout. I am your presenter. My name is Ben Friedman. I am the founder and CEO of CitiQuiet Windows and Doors. At CitiQuiet Windows and Doors, we provide turnkey white glove installation services for all window, storefront, door, and railing projects. We are headquartered in Boca Raton here on the East Coast. We have an office in Miami, we have an office in Naples, and we have an office in Fort Myers. We do service the entire state of Florida. We do go outside of Florida when the projects warrant the expense for us to, of course, mobilizing at those different locations. We work a lot in the Caribbean. So I guess the point of this is think of us as a resource. We want to be thought of to provide budgets, pricing, to provide knowledge and education in the hopes that, you and your property are going to get ultimately what your expectation is from any project that you're doing. So the learning objectives today in this course are as follows. I'm going to again tell you all about myself because I love talking about myself. Give you 2 brief seconds on hurricanes, the selection process of the key players, who are we putting on our speed dial list, for these types of projects, and really why do we have them involved, and who are we surrounding ourselves with. Talk about some project management and whether your association has the funds available to hire an owner's rep or a project manager, like I said. We'll go through, the engineer, the attorney. We'll talk about contracts. We'll talk about permitting, how to select the right product for your project. And ultimately, the most important thing when it comes to impact windows and doors is the installation. Like other products that are certified by the state of Florida and or the local municipalities, the certifications are only as good as the installer doing the installation of them. They're tested in a lab, they pass, great. But if they're not installed properly in the field, they're useless. So it's really important that whether it's a window and door project, a roofing project, right, any structural project, any interior project, as long as the installation goes per the installation guidelines and the manuals, and even above and beyond that, you're going to have a successful result. Lastly, we'll go through the closeout, how to close a project out, the types of things to look for before you make that final payment to your contractors. So again, brief history. Ben Friedman from CitiQuiet Windows and Doors. I am the founder. I am the owner here in South Florida. I brought the business down from New York in 2006 that had been in business there for 30 years. And we saw an opportunity here in South Florida to remove and replace windows and doors with impact resistant products. Um, I personally came here in 2007 to start this business for the previous owners. In 2012, I was lucky enough to have an opportunity to buy this Florida office, get licensed, get bonded, be insured, and ultimately be the backbone of this thing here. I can't do it without the help from my team. I have an awesome team in the field of installers, an awesome team of project managers, an awesome team of marketing and branding ambassadors that I'm sure many of you have met at a lot of our events. And then, of course, can't do it without my office staff because, that infrastructure is really important to make sure that the projects get done smoothly. So, hurricanes. A category one hurricane are winds in excess of 74 miles per hour, up to a category five, which are winds in excess of 157 miles per hour. That said, the Florida Building Code, Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach. Miami-Dade and Broward's building code requirement is that it must meet 175 miles per hour. Palm Beach County is 170, but likely most contractors that are working in Palm Beach County, really most contractors that are working around the country and even the Caribbean are following Miami-Dade standards because they're the most stringent building code, in all of the land, let's call it. A typical hurricane is 300 miles across with an eye of 20 to 40 miles. Huge space. In an average 3 year period, roughly five hurricanes strike the U.S. This course was designed in 2015. These numbers have changed quite a bit. We are seeing more and more storms pop up, over a shorter period of time, and we all need to be prepared for that. We experience hurricanes from Texas to Maine and Southern California. Um, you know, 45% of hurricanes land in the Atlantic, Ocean. So this time of the year, you're seeing some activity that will start drumming up kind of out of the Gulf. As we get more and more into hurricane season and the waters become warmer and warmer, you're going to see these hurricanes coming from the east instead of out of the Gulf, out of the south, out of the west. So 45% land in Florida and Texas. Hurricane season peaks in mid-August to late October. Again, right now, you'll see these strong storms popping up from the west side. But as we get into October, September, August, even late July, some of these threats could be, here on the east coast of Florida because that's when we start seeing greater activity. Here's a basic wind speed map. This is from the Florida Building Codes website. As you can see, the spaghetti lines are where hurricanes are most dominant. So as you can see, right, they're going to come out of the Gulf from the south. They're going to be Texas. They're going to be, Panhandle, swing all the way down around the state of Florida, and then all the way up the East Coast. Hurricane Andrew. Hurricane Andrew, some pictures here of some of the damage. As you can see, the picture on the left is the state of Florida and is the eye of the storm with the storm surrounding it. You can see that the storm is substantially larger than the entire state of Florida. In the middle, you'll see a 30-foot royal palm. That's a 2x4 piece of lumber that split that palm probably 25 feet in the air. Um, as you can see, the telephone lines or the telephone lines. I guess we have fiber these days, but the power lines way down below, so you can see how high up that is. And then the last picture on the right is a piece of plywood that ripped off of someone's temporary protection during a storm and split that royal palm down the middle as well. So the point is, these things are no joke. We have no idea what to expect from a damage standpoint, where it's going to hit, how it's going to hit. But what we do know is how to protect ourselves and how to be prepared for this inevitable, unfortunate experience that does happen. As far as the process, let's talk about that for a bit. In this piece, we're going to talk about key players, that 911 list of who we're going to associate ourselves with very early on and throughout the project. Owner's rep, if funds, allow for it, also known as a project manager, an attorney, an engineer, your banker, your contractor, your insurance broker. Those are the key players, and I'm probably missing a few. Those are some of the main key players that we need to make sure that we are aligning ourselves with before, during, and after the storm. In this part, we'll also talk about specifications and how an engineer will write a scope of work that then leads to a pre-bid meeting and a walkthrough, the bidding process, how bids are collected, and then ultimately a side-by-side comparison is done by the engineer and project manager, called the leveling process, so that they can provide the association, the board, the manager, a detailed list of side-by-side comparison of one company's price versus the other, and what each of them include and or exclude. So, specifications and scope of work. An engineer will create a project manual. Let me back up a second here. Let's go back to key players. Why are the key players important? Well, the owner's rep is something super important to talk about because your owner's rep and or your project manager, they're going to be the quarterback of your project. Doesn't matter what project it is, it matters that they are the quarterback. Property managers listening, I'm going to see a big smile on all of your face when I say this, even though I can't see any of you. Board members, you may not have the same smile on your face. The owner's rep or the project manager is not is not the property manager. The owner's rep and the project manager is not the property manager. The property manager is there to manage your property and do the things they need to do to keep your community in order and the tasks that they have on them, which are up to their eyeballs to begin with. The project manager or the owner's rep, they are the project manager and they are there to represent the board of directors and the owners. They do the coordinating, they do the scheduling, they help with the inspections, they get access to the units, they block off parking spaces. They are the ones that you're paying good money to manage the project, not the property manager. There's no question that the community association manager is involved in the project, but they're involved in facilitating the owner's rep to be able to run that project smoothly. Attorneys, they're going to help you with your contracts. They're going to help you with pay requisitions. They're going to help you with any litigation that you may find yourself in. Engineers, the engineer is going to help write the spec. We're going to go through the scope of work. The banker, they're going to help you with your funding of this project. Many associations are not prepared. So a storm comes through, and blows out a bunch of the windows and the doors. Well, they got to dry that building in, meaning put new windows and doors back in before they can replace all the drywall, the carpet, so on and so forth, or else it's going to get wet every time it rains. Well, if the property doesn't have potentially the funds available or even a line of credit, they're going to sit around and wait for the insurance company to make good on a claim that may take 6 months, a year, and we're still looking at Hurricane Ian claims that haven't been processed, which is now 3 years ago. So the banker is really important because they're going to tell you how to fund these projects when and if your insurance company isn't going to satisfy a claim overnight. Your insurance broker, they're huge. They're your ally. They're the ones that are going to make sure that your coverages are in proper place. They're going to make sure that you have the proper coverage, right? My windows and doors blew out in my building that are 30 years old. I can't put 30-year-old windows back in my building, but the insurance company is only going to give me enough money for those 30-year-old windows. The building department's going to say you can't put windows in that don't meet the current building code. So how is the association going to pay the difference between what they're being given through a claim process and what is now required? So there are different insurances that will eat that gap away. So the insurance company is someone super important that I recommend each and every one of you to have a conversation with about your coverages and to understand, specifically law and ordinance, whereby In the event that I need to replace my windows because they blew out that were non-impact, that now need to be installed as impact, I want to know that my insurance coverage is going to cover that gap and that we don't need to go to the unit owners to say, we got $75 per window and your new windows are $1,000 each. Who's paying for that? Well, maybe there's insurance, which there is, that you can have that will pay for that. So, engineering, specification, scope of work. Engineer's going to create a project manual detailing the project. This needs to include who the key players are that we just spoke about. They need to be documented. It needs to include very specific property information. A lot of these engineers or architects have spec books that are 300 pages long, and they reuse them over and over and over again for the different projects that they are retained to work on. A lot of the information is really, really good, but not all of it pertains to your specific property. And there needs to be verbiage pertaining specifically to your property in these project manuals or these spec books. Of course, it's going to include the current building code requirements because the building code changes every 3 years. And it's going to include any job specific information that should be noted in a spec book so that a contractor like myself can be held accountable once they provide their bid to say, this was here, you missed it, you cannot charge us anymore. You should have known that when you signed and notarized your bid form. So now into the bid form of the bid sheet, that's going to contain contractor information. Who the contractor is, their license number, who the point of contact is, phone number, address, email, so on and so forth. Also in your bid sheet, you should look for what we would call unit pricing. Unit pricing is extremely important. What unit pricing allows you to do is it allows you to understand what things cost from the very beginning. And where this becomes gray is when the topic of change orders gets brought up, whether they're negative change orders or positive change orders. So I'm working at a building. There's 100 sliding glass doors that were specified to be replaced. Engineer messed up, and there's really 110 of them. I told you from day one under unit pricing exactly what each and every sliding glass door costs per sliding glass door. Well, engineer said there was 100, now there's 110. I need to put a change order together for 10 additional sliding glass doors. I'm not just coming up with a number and saying it's $100,000 for 10 more. I'm going back to the bid sheet. I'm looking under unit pricing and I'm saying that they were $6,000 each and that the change order is for $60,000 and not some random number of $100,000 that I just made up. Very important, very important with concrete restoration projects, paint, stucco, waterproofing. All of those have unit numbers because those things vary. And those budgets or allocations that are in a project manual may not be exactly what's going on a job site. There may not be as much concrete to repair as the engineer thought there would be. Therefore, you're going to get a credit of X amount of dollars per linear foot or per cubic foot based on what you said unit pricing is. So that's really important for you guys to look for so that change orders aren't surprises. In the bid sheet, you're going to have to, look for who the manufacturer is. In the window and door world, who's the manufacturer that's being specified? Well, it's ABC Windows Indoors. Okay, that's who the engineer specified. Well, we also like to see in the specification that there is ABC Windows Indoors or an approved equal. What that means is that an engineer has decided that they feel that this is a good product for this project. But they're also willing to allow the contractor to come back with a potential alternative option. Now, what does that alternative option allow the contractor to do? It may allow them to be more competitive from a price standpoint. apples to apples, same specifications, same performance, so on and so forth. Apples to apples, it may allow them to be more competitive from a price standpoint. It also may allow them to be more competitive from a lead time standpoint. So ABC Windows and Doors is manufactured in Asia, in China. Well, there's a lead time of 12 or 18 weeks if the windows are coming from China. Okay. And this is just a fictitious example I'm making up. Well, the concrete restoration company is saying we don't have 18 weeks to wait. We need this stuff ready to go in 4 weeks because that's when we're going to do the concrete at those locations. Well, okay. This alternative option only has a lead time of 3 to 4 weeks. So maybe we should go with that. So an engineer or an architect that's creating these spec books, we love to see when they allow us to give them alternative option. We can value engineer the project from a price standpoint, or we can make it more efficient from a time standpoint. Ultimately, the project manual gets sent to a minimum of 3 bidders. Your association may choose to send them to 10. You may send them to 3. I can't tell you what to do. I can tell you, what we typically see and what allows the association to make a quicker, more educated decision is when you have the minimum amount of bids that you must get per your condo docs and, 1 or 2 more than that. To have 10, chances are you're never going to be able to make an educated decision, and the decision isn't going to be what you really ultimately wanted in the end. This slide talks about the Florida Building Code. The Florida Building Code website is on the left. This is also known as the DBPR. What does that allow us to do as end users, as managers, as board members? It allows us to go in and look up the contractor. It allows you to understand if the contractor has complaints against them, what they've done about them, if they've been resolved or not. It allows you to look up the contractor's license. Is it in good standing? Is it suspended? Is it expired? It also allows you to check who the license holder is. Very important. Ben Friedman from CitiQuiet Windows and Doors is the license holder and qualifies CitiQuiet Windows and Doors, his business. Company ABC Windows and Doors, they have John Smith, who's their qualifier. John Smith is employed by a roofing company, but he also has a contractor license that ABC Windows and Doors is borrowing to qualify their company. So it's very important for you to understand. It's nice to see a contractor or a construction company having the qualifier or the license holder being an employee of that company. They care about that. I'm the license holder for my company. I care if there are issues with my license relative to my company. If I am a qualifier for someone else's business and they go out and fail inspection after inspection after inspection, that goes against my license. So that's something very important to understand. So DBPR website allows you to check up on the contractor, the licenses, so on and so forth. It also allows you to go in and look at products. Again, engineer specifies Marvin Windows and Doors. You're curious. You want to go in. You want to see all about Marvin Windows and Doors. So here's an example. Marvin Windows and Doors, and this is under the category of exterior swinging doors. They have 4 products that are their swinging doors. You can see the product approval number on the left. You can see who the manufacturer is, Marvin Windows and Doors. You can see who validated it, who tested the product. Is it a reputable testing facility recognized by the Florida Building Code or by Miami-Dade? And then you can see the status of the product. The product is approved. That means a permit can be pulled. It's viable. If it says in revision, if it says expired, those are red flags. That means that a contractor didn't do their due diligence and they're proposing something to you that is not applicable and cannot be used for your project. I want to also throw something out there here, which is the Miami-Dade NOA. This is another way of certifying products. Again, 2 ways to certify products. windows and doors specifically, roofing, shutters, things like that, either through the Florida Building Code, which is known as the FBC, or through the Miami-Dade Product Control process. In the window and door world, this title of NOA, Notice of Acceptance, is the Rolls Royce. Everyone wants a window or a door with a Miami-Dade NOA. Why? Because Miami-Dade, as I told you, has the most stringent codes in all of the land. And if Miami-Dade certified it and allows it to be used there, I want to use it in Gainesville. Okay. The Florida Building Code is very broad. You can have products that are tested for use in Jacksonville and Gainesville, as well as in Miami-Dade and Broward and in the Keys and in Naples and Fort Myers. Well, what's the big difference? The big difference is that the Florida Building Code is a much larger service. It allows manufacturers to get products certified in a much quicker, cost-effective time frame than Miami-Dade, who's overloaded with products trying to be certified. Two, the Florida Building Code has something known as HVHZ, High Velocity Hurricane Zone. If you have a Florida Building Code approval with HVHZ, it is identical to the Miami-Dade NOA. So don't be so close-minded, and I'm not saying anybody specifically here is. Don't be so close-minded and say, I need a Miami-Dade NOA product approval for my project. You don't. Even if you're in Miami-Dade, you don't need that. You need a product approval that has an HVHZ certification from the Florida Building Code or the Miami-Dade NOA, period. So please understand that if a contractor comes to you and says, here's my product, it has a Florida Building Code approval with HVHZ, it's one and the same as a Miami-Dade NOA. Very important. So let's get into contracts real briefly here. So now we've we've got our owner's rep, we've got our engineer retained, right? They've sent the project manual out to 3 or 5 bidders. Everybody's reviewed their bids. They've submitted their bid. They've signed and sealed and notarized their bid, acknowledging that they read through each and every page of the specifications and the scope of work. And now the project manager or the owner's rep and the engineer are sitting down with the board, and they are looking at a side-by-side comparison in a spreadsheet of the 3 bids that they got: company ABC, company CitiQuiet Windows and Doors, and company XYZ. And why one's $1 million, one's $1.5 million, and one is $3 million. They're doing what's called the leveling process. That is a side-by-side comparison showing what's included, what's excluded for X price. And then that engineer and or project manager is going to go to the board and make a recommendation and say, we have 3 bids. We feel this is the most comprehensive bid. Why? And we feel they're the best fit for the project. Board of directors says, great, thank you. We'll take your advice. Board of directors says, nope, we're going to vote on it ourselves. Great. Now they've selected their contractor. Okay. Once they've selected their contractor, they're now going to negotiate some of these terms, such as expectations, timelines, dollar amounts, liquidated damages, work hours, holiday schedule, so on and so forth. And that's going to be a negotiation. That negotiation is going to be part of this contract process. It's going to talk about pay terms, pay schedules, expectations, lead times. All of that needs to be spelled out. Now, your attorney is going to help you prepare your contract. You're either going to have a standard AIA contract that has language in it that is very fair to both the contractor and the association, or you're going to have a subcontract that an attorney has drafted for you as an association to use when executing contracts or going through projects. Most common are AIA contracts because they're fair, they require less due diligence, they're quicker to be executed. Um, there's an understanding there. So you have all of this stuff spelled out. Now the attorney, your attorney sends it to the contractor's attorney. Contractor's attorney sees it's an AIA agreement. A lot of the stuff they don't have to look through. They have to look through the stuff pertaining towards your project. Opposite is your attorney has a contract that they've drafted for you that you give your contractor. Your contractor's attorney is now going to sit there and look through each and every item of this and say, this is very one sided. We need to negotiate this, and this. It gets redlined. It goes back to your attorney. Your attorney says, I knew they'd do that. It's very one sided. Now let's negotiate. They send it back. Then it goes back. Then it goes back. Then it goes back. It takes much longer time, and it's perfectly fine, but it takes much less time to work through the AIA contracts. Now, once all of those items get negotiated, contract gets executed. I want to talk to you from the AIA standpoint here of if you have an AIA contract, you can use these two powerful tools. If you have a subcontract that your attorney has created for you, you can use these two very powerful tools that I'm about to show you as exhibits, okay, or attachments to your contract. These two forms on the right are what I'm referring to. The form on the left is your cover page, your standard form of agreement. It's called your AIA A107. This is a standard cover page to a contract. It's the day, the time, who the contract's between, who the key players are listed out, the banks, so on and so forth, the architect, the engineer, the property information. So that's just an example. On the right, though, you have two forms. You have a G702 and you have a G703. The G702 is known as the application and certificate for payment. This is in place of a contractor going in QuickBooks and creating an invoice to send to the association. That is very generic. This here, the G702, is very detailed and allows you to track payments and pay applications at a very simple, efficient rate. So again, on here, you'll have all of the information about the project specifically. You'll have the contract sum. You'll have change orders. You'll have what's being asked for to be paid this bill pay period. You'll have what the retainage has been negotiated out to be. And you'll have what's remaining on the contract to be paid. Okay, in the bottom left-hand corner of that, you'll have changes to the summary of work. Net change order positive, net change order negative, and that's where you track your change orders on the bottom left. On the right side, the contractor needs to sign and notarize each and every one of these pay applications. In addition, your architect or engineer or owner's rep, or attorney, they will sign off as well. And until those two parties sign and notarize this document, no payment should be made. Bottom right-hand corner, AIA G703. This is your continuation sheet. So let's go with the example of we just executed our contract and now we want to invoice you for a deposit to bind the contract. So we're going to fill out the G702, what the contract amount is. It's $1 million. We're going to suggest the deposit is 10%. That's $100,000. We're going to suggest we haven't billed you for anything prior to this, 0. And then we're also going to suggest that the retainage amount is 10%. So therefore, in this pay application, under item number 8, the net amount that we're seeking to be paid is $90,000. 10% of $1 million is $100,000, and 10% retainage is 10,000. Thus, 90,000 is the amount, the check that we should be expecting. That gets spelled out here on the G703. Item number. You're going to put item number one. Description is going to be deposit, scheduled amount, $100,000. Retainage amount, 10%. Total amount to be billed, $90,000. Every time that a change is made to this form, the algorithm adjusts to it and adjusts what's left for retainage, what's left to be billed out, what's left to be completed, so on and so forth. So, again, these are two very powerful tools to use as an addendum, an attachment, an exhibit to any contract that you are going to have for any project going on at your property. When it comes to windows and doors, the permitting and product selection process. Your engineer is going to request that these product approvals we spoke about, the FBC approvals or the Miami-Dade NOA, be highlighted or be detailed. Why? Because some of them are 30 pages long. So think about this, a sliding glass door. I have a sliding glass door in my 2-bedroom condo that is 2 panes, one slides, and one is stationary. The product approval allows me to use that product in the 2-bedroom condo. But what about a 3-bedroom condo that has a 3-panel sliding glass door, a 3-bedroom condo that has a 4-panel sliding glass door, or a custom home that has a 10-panel sliding glass door? All of those options are all covered under one product approval. But unless I specify which options I am going to use, the building department is going to reject me and tell me you need to be more specific and say, which one of these items are you using? Are you using 5/16 inch laminated glass, 7/16 inch laminated glass, 9/16? Which glass are you using? What type of screws are you using? Because it allows for different types of screws going into different types of substrates. How many screws are you using? So these product approvals are generic because they can be used in a 2-bedroom condo, on the beach, on the 30th floor of a high-rise condo in Miami Beach. And these products can also be used in Hollywood, Florida, way out west on 441. They need to be detailed and highlighted. What components of these systems am I using for this specific project? A draftsman or a draftswoman are going to create shop drawings. Those shop drawings show the style of each and every window and door and where they're located. It also shows how many there are. Why is this important? This is important because Mrs. Smith has a condo that has had sliding glass doors installed in her building for 50 years. Mrs. Smith, over the past 10 years, has had a very difficult time opening and closing her sliding glass doors. So she just chooses, or he just chooses, to not do it anymore. It's too big of a pain. I'm not going to use them. Okay. Well, when the new ones come in, Mr. or Mrs. Smith can use them freely, simply. But they call up the association and they say, you know what? When I open the door, I used to use my right hand to open the door, and now I'm using my left hand to open the door. It didn't always work like this. This is different than it used to be. No, no, no. Those shop drawings are going to show the association exactly what was existing for that unit and what is being proposed or contracted to be used to alleviate Mrs. Jones or Mrs. Smith coming downstairs and saying, it never used to work like this. It was the opposite way. No, it wasn't, ma'am or sir. You haven't used it in quite some time, and maybe you're confused because we have documentation showing how it used to work and now how it does work. So detailed site-specific shop drawings with site-specific information, also known as a window and door schedule, very important to have on file with the association. Um, an expediter or a permitting company. We use an expediting company. What does that do? That allows the permit process to be done more efficiently. They have relationships. They know what the building department is going to ask for. So they're going to put together as complete of a package as possible so that when they get to the building department to drop it off, they're going to see that permit intake at the counter, that smiley face that they see every single day and say, I have a package for you, another one. And they're going to take it with a smile on their face because they know they're not going to need to look through each and everything to make sure that the insurance is up to date, the license is in good standing. Having an expediter, what we call, or a permit runner, allows them to track all the comments, the revisions, and to fix them as quickly as possible. The last thing I want to talk about when it comes to product selection and permitting, samples of the finish of the frame, meaning the color, the glass color, and all anything related to aesthetics need to be submitted to the association for approval, signed, two of them, one for you and one for us or the contractor. Why? If I told you that a window when you drive down the street is the color bronze, you might tell me, no, Ben, it's black. And I would say to you, no, actually, the industry term is bronze, but it does look dark and it does look black, but it's really cold bronze. Okay. Same thing. If I told you that window over there is white, you might say to me, it is white, but why is that one shiny, high sheen white, and that one have a matted finish white? Because there are lots of different options in our industry. And if it's not understood what you're getting, then something different may show up than what your expectation is in that container of windows and doors for your building. Okay. If you're paying extra for a high quality paint finish that's going to give you a 10, 15, 20-year warranty, you damn well better be getting that from the contractor when they deliver all those windows and doors. So you're going to go back to that sample piece of metal and you're going to compare it exactly to what they brought out there. And if it's a match, you're getting what you paid for. Same example goes with glass. How many different colors of gray glass are there out there? Well, there's light gray, medium gray, and dark gray. How about this idea of turtle glass? Newsflash, there's no such thing as turtle glass. There is such thing, however, as turtle code compliant glass. What does that mean? That means that in order to meet turtle code compliance, you need to have a certain amount of light from the outside in at night not transfer through the glass. And you could do that by using different colors of glass and different coatings of glass. So my point here is that if you say I'm getting green glass, you want a sample of that green glass in that property manager's office so that you can compare it to the green glass that the contractor brought out there times 1,000 sliding glass doors to make sure that you're getting exactly what you paid for. Very important. So this is a cool video of how windows and doors are tested in a lab, um, which I'll save you from. And we'll get into the real meat and potatoes. The real meat and potatoes is the installation. As I said, they're certified. You can't pull a permit without them. You can't install them without the certification. But if they're not installed properly, they are not going to work. There are product installation guides that come with each and every one of your systems. They are pages and pages and pages. And if the contractor does not follow each and every step and skips one, misses one, forgets a rubber gasket on something and it leaks, when you have a warranty claim and you want the manufacturer to come out there and make good on it because the contractor, myself, is saying it's good. There's nothing wrong with it. Well, let me call the manufacturer of it. They're going to go and they're going to go through each step of the installation. And if the contractor missed one step out of 40, 30, 50, they're going to say, contractor didn't install it properly. There's nothing wrong with our product. There's a problem with the installation of it. Then the contractor is going to say there's no problem, and it's going to go on and on forever. So, point is, there are many steps that need to be taken properly with no corners cut to make sure that A, your windows and doors are installed properly. They're going to be keep you safe and sound during a hurricane or a high wind event. And when you need to exercise a warranty, you're going to be able to exercise that warranty with the manufacturer if the contractor is no longer around or is not willing to make good on something. Detail though, when we talk about installation, we talk about it in an apartment, a condo, a home. It doesn't matter what a single family residence, it doesn't matter what it is, a hotel. Um, the first thing that a contractor and a representative from the association, the project manager or owner's rep, should do is they should note damage and they should do a pre-existing condition report for each and every single unit and common area in the building or at the property with videos, photos, and notating what is the condition of this space. Unit 101 at XYZ address. Well, the tile is broken at the sliding glass door location. Okay, that's good to know. So when we remove the sliding glass doors and put new ones in during the summer, and the unit owner is a snowbird and they're not here, they come back in December and say, they broke my tile. Well, actually, let's go back to the pre-existing condition notes and photos and show you, in fact, your tile was broken before we got there. Notating all of this, documenting it all, leaving one copy with the association and the contractor keeping one. It can be, a hard copy. It should be stored in a cloud server. Again, if there's a hurricane, a lot of that documentation can get damaged if there's a fire. So try to store it on a cloud server or, on a thumb drive somewhere safe to keep it. You could go back to any of this stuff. We've done all the due diligence. We've taken photos. We've shared it with the association. Now, the next step is when we come to actually do the installation a few weeks later. And the first thing is we want to put up temporary protection in all the hallways, any common area in the elevators, leading up to the unit and then inside the unit. Inside the unit, typically you'll see a window and door contractor putting up what we would call a dust wall, a plastic zip wall, a weather wall. That's going to contain the dust. Window and door projects are extremely dusty. You have very, very fine dust from the drywall cutting, from the stucco cutting that is going to blow around the unit because the window is removed and the wind is blowing from one side of the unit and from the other side of the unit. As much plastic and many zip walls as we can put up, we still then go the extra mile on the inside of that unit, not the contained area, the inside that unit. Put down drop cloths, put down painter's plastic on all of the personal belongings. We're there to do a job. It's to remove your windows and doors and to install new ones properly. What we don't want to do at the end of the day is clean your entire house. So if we could put down as much protection as possible, it limits the amount of time at the end of the day that we need to set aside for cleaning instead of using that time for installing windows and doors because you want us out of your buildings, I can assure you. It's loud, it's dirty, it's dusty, it's humid. You want us out of there. So if we can protect it as much as we can do as many windows and doors in a day as we can. We don't need to spend the last 2 hours of the day cleaning. We could spend the last 2 hours of the day getting in 3 or 4 more windows. After we've protected the unit and taken photos of everything, what we like to try to talk about at this point and create the expectation through a town hall or through a meeting with the association is that window coverings, blinds, drapes, motorized, non-motorized, they should be taken down before the contractor that's removing the windows and doors and installing new ones gets there. Why? It takes time to do so. They're old, they're brittle, they break in our hands. We're responsible for them. They're motorized, we unplug them. When you go to plug them back in, the timing, the synchronization isn't the same. So now they don't work as well as they used to work. Please, again, in a town hall before a project starts, we emphasize unit owners do need to be proactive. They need to do certain things or should do certain things if they physically can before the window and door contractor shows up. Take stuff off of the windowsills, take the tchotchkes or the picture frames of them and their grandkids or great grandkids away from the work area. Things that cannot be replaced should be put away. Simple as that. Same thing with putting the blinds back up. Window and door contractors, not responsible. They shouldn't be held accountable. Why? Your old windows and doors, let's say the frame was 2 inches wide on them. Well, the new windows and doors are 3.5 inches wide because they're stronger, they're bigger, they're heavier, they're hurricane impact. Those blinds may not go back in the same position that they were in before we got there. So now we're drilling holes in the ceiling. We're redecorating someone's home. No, it should be understood blinds are excluded from this project. Blinds, anything, window covering, shades, blackouts, whatever it is. So when we come into the opening, hopefully they're gone. We can remove the window. We replace all the bucks. What the bucks are is there's a piece of wood that's old, probably damp and wet, maybe termited, that's attached to the substrate, to the concrete block. That piece of wood is on or about the same size as the window frame that we're taking out. The building code requires that the new wood or the new buck be the size of the new window frame so that it can support the deflection of the window moving and it's not going to bend behind a piece of wood. All of that wood is now new wood and it's pressure treated. It's that green algae moldy looking wood that you see in Home Depot, because that can get humid, that can get damp. If water does get to it, it's not going to rot, splinter, termite, stuff like that. Um, Waterproofing something that's in the specification or it's not. It could be a recommendation of the contractor to say, look, the engineer didn't specify waterproofing. We feel that we should really seal the concrete block before the bucks and before the new windows go in with a liquid applied flashing, or a waterproofing material, and the association may say, no, they didn't require it, don't bother, okay. Or they may say, wow, that's a great idea. We can, an added layer of protection. Send us what you think. Then they'll send that over to their engineer and they'll say, hey, the contractor suggested that we should think about doing this for an additional $50,000. Engineer will say, it's a great idea. We missed it. Or, you know what, it's not required by the building code, but it's not a bad idea. And if you guys want to spend the money on it, we're on board with it. So waterproofing is sometimes forgotten about. It's really important. Now it's more predominantly done in what we call retrofits, which are remove and replace, instead of where it's required is in new construction. Carting away of all the debris. So we've taken out the window. We're ready to get the window opening, ready for the new window. What do we do with the old windows and doors? Typically, we take them down through the outside of the building, like you see in the picture on the right, with a cherry picker, with a swing stage, with a mass climber, keeping all the debris outside of the hallways, outside of walking through the units. That limits liability also. So if I take it through the unit, I run the risk of scratching someone's furniture, their paint, their sofa, metal, old windows. They're sharp, the edges. They can cut stuff. Not only that, but the contractor says, you know what? We're going to remove the windows in here and the unit next door. We're going to leave the dolly in the hallway up against the wall so that when we have enough stuff on it to take it down to the service elevator, we'll be efficient and take a lot of it down at once instead of one at a time. Well, what they forgot about is that Mrs. Smith just walked outside of her unit from across the hall that's not getting new windows and doors, and she bumped into it by accident. She got cut by the raw metal. Who's getting sued? Everyone. So if you can get rid of the debris from the outside, it's ideal. If you can get rid of the debris once it's taken out, if it has to go through the inside, Do it right then and there. Don't leave stuff unattended. Limit your liability, please. We've done all of this wonderful prep work. We've done the waterproofing. We've gotten rid of the debris. Now we can actually put the windows and doors in. Installation manual tells you to use XYZ, uh, you know, steel anchors, to use a basic caulking or a sealant. That may be different than what the engineer or the project manual suggested. Well, we're on the coast, right? We're at a high rise building in Miami Beach. Engineer says use stainless steel fasteners. The product manual or installation guide says use a 1/4 inch anchor, concrete anchor. Why? Because it could be used again way out west in, Pembroke Pines, as opposed to being on the beach where that screw is going to corrode at a much higher rate. So going back to the project manual to see, what materials do we need to use, and then what materials can we use is a big thing. That's a big corner cut for you guys to look out for. Caulking too, right? I could have caulking exterior sealant that has a 15-year warranty, or I could have caulking that has a 25-year warranty. What do you think costs more? The one with the longer warranty. What do you think the contractor is going to use if nobody's looking? The cheaper one. So the installation, again, is very important that you use high quality products, even if they cost more. The project, now we've screwed it down. We've gotten our inspection either through the city or through a special inspector. A special inspector is someone that is also known as a threshold inspector. That is someone or some entity that you as the association are paying to conduct and oversee the installation process. It is not the owner's rep. It is typically an engineering company or an architect. They're threshold engineers that are licensed by the state to do inspections. Why is this important? They are there babysitting and watching this thing go on day in, day out. If they miss a day and the contractor's doing the right thing, they'll accept pictures or videos and say, keep going. When you don't have one of those and you have city inspections, you are now at the mercy of the city. So today it is now 12 p.m. and I have one slide left, but it is 12 p.m. And if I call my inspection in today before 2 p.m., I can get an inspection tomorrow from the city. And you know what time they're going to be there? Between 9 and 5. So if I take out a window of Mrs. Smith's unit at 10 a.m., the inspector doesn't show up until 4 p.m. That unit is sitting there open and exposed the entire day until that inspector decides to show up. Well, what happens if the elevator hours for construction are from 9 to 4:30? I only have 30 minutes because the inspector just showed up before to put that window in, secure it, clean your apartment, and get out of there. Not efficient. Hiring a special inspector, also known as a threshold inspector, allows the project to go more smoothly and become more efficient. We got the inspections, we cleaned the dirt, the debris, the dust. As I said, when we came in, we took pictures of where all the furniture was. We move it back to the location if it was in our way and we had to move it to create space to work. We give you back the unit. You should expect the unit to be given back to you the way that the contractor found it, within reason. We're not cleaning people. We're window and door installers. We sweep up after ourselves. But again, it's very dusty, and the expectation should be you're going to be able to live in that unit that night, but you might have some, cleaning that you're going to have to do. I'm not talking about piles of dirt and debris. I'm talking about dust that you'll find, on your coffee table, potentially. Lastly, reinstallation of window coverings. Don't expect your window and door contractor to do it. Don't ask them to. It's a nightmare. The contractor, those old vertical blinds that have been sitting in the sun baking for 40 years, they're going to crumble into pieces in our hand. We're going to be responsible for replacing them. We're not going to be able to find the same ones we found, that the homeowner had from 40 years ago. Homeowner's going to hate you because we broke them. Just avoid it. Lastly, closing out a project. 2 more minutes here. When a project is done or it's suggested to be done, a walkthrough needs to be done of the units and or building. that is suggested to be complete. This is done with a representative from the association and or the building's engineer or maintenance supervisor and the contractor. That unit's done. I approve. That unit's done. Has a ripped screen. Note it down. That unit's done. I approve. That unit. Oh, the window, the brand new one that you lift up and down. When you lift it up, it kind of slowly drags down. Note it down. That's creating a punch list. So creating a punch list with the representative of the construction company, as well as a representative from the association, and then going in systematically and knocking items off of that punch list is imperative to do before closing out. So if I have a high rise building with 10 drops, when I finish drop one, I want to do a walkthrough of every single unit in drop one. It's a 20-story building. There's 20 units in drop one. I want to do a walkthrough. Once I go to drop two, I'm going to have a team fall behind and do drop one walkthrough and punch out. Why? Because it's going to take me 8 months to get to drop 10. And in 8 months, I don't want to go back to drop one when I could do it right now and knock any issues out that I might have today. Not only do I not want to knock it, I want to knock it out. I want to be paid for it. So if I have 10% retainage on 10 stacks of windows and doors, and I punch out two of those 10 stacks, I can collect 20% of my retainage that I'm owed right then and there instead of waiting 8 months until the project is done. That's the selfish reason we do it. The other reason we do it is because Mrs. Jones is a snowbird and we did her unit. And while we did her unit, the windows were perfectly fine. But Mrs. Jones is also rents the unit out while she's not here and whatever. And when she comes back, she notices that her bedroom window has a piece of broken glass in it. Well, let's go back to the punch out list. The punch out list and the closeout said there was no broken glass 6 months ago. So now Mrs. Jones is saying, well, I didn't break the glass. Contractor's saying, well, I didn't break the glass. And now they're coming to the manager and saying, I'm not here. My glass is broken. Okay, well, something happened in between the windows being installed to you noticing it. And we approved it 3 weeks after the job was done that there was no broken glass. So this allows for less phone calls, issues down the road if you can take care of issues right then and there. Lastly, make sure that you get all of your final inspections signed off on from the special inspector or threshold inspector as well as the city. Close out the permit. Don't let it linger out there. Close out your notice of commencement. There is a termination of commencement that should be filled out as well. Make sure that you receive releases of liens from everyone, from your contractor, from your contractor's subcontractors, from the contractor's manufacturer of the windows and the doors, any and all suppliers, anyone that has contributed physically to or tangibly physically to this project, you need to get a release of lien from. The manufacturer, if you pay me a deposit for custom made windows and doors for your building, and we have credit with the manufacturer, and we choose to keep your money and never pay them, they could come back to the building and say, those windows and those doors that are installed in that building were made by us and we were never paid for them, and put liens on your building. Same thing with the subcontractors. If I am the GC and I have subs and you paid me to install the windows and doors in your building, but I never paid the subcontractor that did that installation, they could come back and sue the association for not being paid. So please get releases of liens from everyone. And lastly, what I like to throw out there is ask for stuff at the end as a gift. I call it attic stock. Attic stock are extras. Things that we know could and will go wrong inevitably. Touch up paint for scratches, wheels for sliding glass doors, bumpers that get attached that may fall off, handles, caps, covers, springs, also known as balance rods, windows that go up and down. A lot of the time, those springs will fail. Have your contractor give you 20 extra of them, 50 extra of them. Have your and hold them accountable for it. Have your contractor give you 10 handles to the sliding glass doors. Why? The manufacturers change and modernize their products to keep up with their competition, and some of those parts and pieces may not be available when and if you have an issue for them. And that is all I got, ladies and gentlemen. I do appreciate you all being here today. Um, this is my contact info. I'll also put it in the chat. Please feel free to use us as a resource. Help with budgeting, anything you guys need. We're here for you. I am here now to answer any of your questions. I'm not going anywhere. So I'm going to turn it over to the team and we can open up the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Ben. And thanks everyone for sticking with us and being here today for our first webinar of the season, of the summer season. So we'll be here every single Wednesday, all summer long, each week a new topic. And we hope that you will join us again. So before we get into the questions, I just want to make sure you guys are able to see the evaluation form that Jeff kindly put into the chat a few times. If you don't see it, let us know in the chat. Otherwise, I'm sure Jeff will put it in there again in a few minutes. And here is a link to our June 10th webinar, which is next Wednesday. So that will be all about cooling towers, what you need to know, really important stuff from the Falcon Group. We really appreciate they do an excellent job with that presentation. It's been a long time since they've done it, so it'll be great. Hope you guys can join us next week as well, same time at 11 a.m. Eastern. All right, now let's get into some questions. The first question was earlier in the presentation, how do you find a local project manager?
Great question. There are some uh well, let me ask you, Marielle, are any of the project managers or owners reps some of our vendor partners here at Ace by TSK, which I know the answer, but I'll let you answer it.
Well, we have had a great partner in LGC, who's an owner's rep,
Yeah.
and they, are a great kind of all-encompassing project manager. I guess it depends on if you are looking for a project manager for one specific project, ongoing. I always also recommend asking, like Ben is a great resource, or any of our amazing experts, always, for the most part, have worked with somebody that they like or that they prefer or that they can recommend. So um, that is a really the way I would suggest finding somebody is always find the vendor that you like, the service provider that you like, and ask them who they prefer to work with, who they have had good experiences with. Um,
I'll also add LGC is amazing, of course, but I'll also add, your bigger, engineering firms.
I was gonna say, actually, I think Falcon also.
Yeah,
Uh,
Falcon, again, I won't pinpoint anyone specific because I work with a bunch of them, but
sure.
like Marielle said, their competition, they also have what they call, um, CM, which is construction management. So
Mm,
they can be a really good resource for you. So there's owners, reps,
absolutely.
project managers that do this for a living. This is their business. And then there are engineering firms that have owners rep or CM construction management as a menu item in some of the services that they provide.
Which I do believe the Falcon Group does as well, and they'll be with us next week
Yeah, they do.
to ask further questions. Cool. The next question we have is, do you have an example of a hurricane specification that condo association boards have been required to adopt for each association?
So, I mean,
Hmm.
I can share that with you individually. But again, they're different because each project is different. So, there is pertinent information that they all have in them. For example, you know, what the current building code is, what the wind speed is, and then it's what they all should have in them as what the frame finish needs to be, Okay. What the glass color needs to be. Um, you know, stuff like that is common and in a lot of it. But when it comes to specific associations, you can tell me, listen, and share my contact info, Marielle. If you're a high rise in, East Hollywood on the beach, I can show you a specification that we use for, the Scion Ocean residents on Hollywood Beach, and you could kind of compare it to that. But
Mm,
it's going to be different than, the specification for, the Hard Rock Hotel in Hollywood as well, because it's not as close to the beach. It's, maybe it's even taller high rise than the one on the beach. So there's
sure.
generic stuff that needs to be in there about what the code is, what products can be used or approved equal, and what the frame finish needs to be and the glass color this way so the building, when it's all said and done, it's uniform. You don't have a white window and a bronze window, and then you don't have gray glass and green glass.
Right. Makes perfect sense.
Speaking
And I
of the Hard
believe
Rock, have you seen images of the guitar-shaped hotel going up in Vegas? It's going to dwarf the one in Broward. It's crazy.
I'll be there I'll be at the one in Hollywood in about an hour. So if anyone wants to meet me there,
nice.
yeah,
I just want to mention, I do think Ben's contact information will be on the form, the evaluation form. Once you submit the evaluation form, you'll
Correct.
have a bunch of resources that pop up, including contact information for Ben and or his team. So if you do want to contact him directly, you'll have it there. All right. Next, the installation is from inside the unit, or will you need a swing stage? So I guess is the installation from inside the unit?
so there's always going to need to be people in the unit, in that containment area that I spoke about, those plastic zip walls. But
Hmm.
its preferred method of installation is from the outside in with a swing stage because there's many reasons, but just some that pop up off the top of my head. The most important one for me would be one and 1A would be it's a lot easier for me to approach a window that's 30 feet or 30 stories up from the outside and seal it properly standing right in front of it. As opposed to sticking my head out there,
Huh.
worried about, you know, 300 feet down, making sure that I get a proper seal on the window. That's the most important, I think. One and 1A is you don't want contractors walking through your building and taking over your building. You want the building to still function as a building with as minimal interruptions as possible. And if the work can be done from the outside, we're not using your elevators, we're not damaging your floors, your people getting, in the way, waiting, elevators. Exterior is definitely the way to go. But, there's associations that say, listen, swing stage is an extra $150,000. We'd rather go through the headaches of, repainting the hallways down the road. It's kind of like foolish, but exterior is the way to go.
Mhm. Good question. Um, do condo associations receive an insurance discount for the property having all hurricane window protection? Also, a great question. I'm sure you hear all the time.
Great question. Politically correct answer. Contact your attorney and your insurance.
Yeah.
But if your building is what is known as a Class A rated building, and you get that Class A rating through a mitigation inspection, you get the luxury of two things. One is a discount on your insurance, your wind policy primarily. And two is you also get the luxury of having more insurance companies to look at your building and offer you coverage than if
Mm.
you didn't have hurricane protection.
More competitive.
Definitely.
Great. Awesome. Um, Last but not least, outstanding presentation. Oh, this is not a question, just outstanding presentation for both condo buildings and individual homeowners. Very thorough. Excellent. And we have a thank you as well. I think I saw a couple more thank yous and very informative in the chat. So thank you, Ben. We do really appreciate it. And again, I really encourage you guys to reach out with any questions, particulars, particular situations you guys are going through, projects upcoming, all that good stuff. And I know Ben is also one of those people who, when you are looking for other service providers or project manager, and he's really out there and he's a great resource. And certainly, somebody in our community for a long time that I would turn to if I was looking for something like that. So we thank you so much, Ben, and your whole team at CitiQuiet for being a
Thank
wonderful
you.
partner and providing a wonderful educational presentation today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you so much. I believe Jeff usually likes to stay on for a couple more minutes. I just want to remind everybody who didn't hear in the beginning, we will be here every single Wednesday all summer long. So please join us when and where you can. And if you missed a presentation or you're looking for a specific topic, please utilize our website, acebytsk.com, to see all the recordings and share with your boards and your colleagues. All right. Jeff, any closing announcements?
Oh, well, Ben,
I wish we were all going with Ben to the Hard
excellent.
Rock right
Yeah, yeah, excellent
now.
as always, man.
Hey,
Great
it's
job. It's always good seeing you too, man.
thank you, Jeff. Thank you. The Hard Rock's gonna be rocking. There's the CAI National Conferences this week, so that's at the
Great.
Yeah.
Diplomat and some events over at the Hard Rock, and that's what I'm really going there for. And maybe play some blackjack.
Nice,
Perhaps.
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All
Thanks,
right.
Jeff.
Well, have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy the expo, and
Thank you.
we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Take
All right.
care.
Take care.